Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you changes everything. This past weekend, Meghan Markle quietly boarded a plane, flew solo across the country to Chicago, walked into Holy Name Cathedral, sat down in a pew with everyone else, and attended her godson's first communion like a completely normal person. No motorcade, no security detail, no separate entrance, no special treatment. Just Meghan, in a church, among strangers. And honestly, if that was the whole story, I'd say good for her. Moving on. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. Within hours of that church service ending, People magazine, which at this point might as well be on the Sussex payroll, had a full exclusive, complete with a source, praising how normal and down-to-earth she was, and detailing exactly which pew she sat in. Which pew she Saturday in. Now here's where it gets interesting. A local Chicago TV presenter named Natalie Martinez had posted a photo on X earlier that same day. Simple caption, "Holy Name vibes today." Her daughter walking to her first communion. And right there in the picture, clear as day, Meghan Markle. People magazine picked it up within hours. And then Natalie Martinez deleted the post. Think about that sequence. Post goes up. People magazine gets the story. Post disappears. This is not a coincidence. Natalie Martinez is a professional television journalist. She knows exactly what she's doing when she posts something, and she knows exactly what she's doing when she deletes it. That post was a starting pistol, and the moment it did its job, it was gone. This was coordinated, every single part of it. And I think most of you watching already knew that the moment you heard the story, that I'll be fair for a moment. I actually understand what Meghan was going for here. Things have not been going smoothly. The Australian tour generated as much controversy as goodwill. The headlines have been rough. The coverage has been rougher. So when your public image is taking a battering, what do? You humanize yourself. You sit in a church pew like everybody else, and you let People magazine paint a warm, cozy picture of a woman who quietly shows up for the people she loves. Honestly, not a stupid strategy. In different circumstances, it might even have worked. But here's the thing about this couple. Every move they make carries 17 consequences they never see coming. Because they're so focused on the headline they want, they completely miss the headline they're about to create. Meghan wanted the world to see her as ordinary and relatable. What she actually did was hand Harry's legal opponents the most damaging piece of evidence they could have ever asked for. Let me explain this, because this is where the story stops being gossip and becomes something with real consequences. Harry has been fighting a long-running legal battle against the British government, demanding automatic taxpayer-funded police protection every time he and Meghan visit the UK. His argument, made publicly, loudly, and repeatedly, is that they face unique threats, that their global profile makes normal movement impossible, that without guaranteed security, they essentially cannot come to Britain at all. That is the case sitting before the courts right now. And Meghan just personally handed the other side's lawyers a documented, public example of her moving freely and safely through one of the most statistically dangerous cities in the Western world. Without any security, without a single incident. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, one of the most photographed, most recognizable women on the planet, flew alone to a major American city, attended a public religious ceremony at a well-known cathedral, sat among hundreds of complete strangers, and walked away without a single incident. No threats. No chaos. No security nightmare. A local Chicago resident even commented online that Meghan's appearance got absolutely zero local coverage. Zero. Nobody cared. Nobody noticed. Nobody caused a problem. Now let me give you some context, because the numbers here are staggering. Chicago's homicide rate sits at approximately 15.4 per 100,000 residents. And that's after years of significant decline. The UK's homicide rate? 0.86 per 100,000. Last year, Chicago recorded 460 homicides, the lowest in 60 years, and still an enormous number for one city. England and Wales, with a population of 60 million people, recorded 522. One mid-sized American city. Almost as many murders as an entire country. That means Meghan was statistically 18 times more likely to be murdered in Chicago than anywhere in the United Kingdom. 18 times. She went alone. Nothing happened. And then her own PR team made sure the whole world knew about it. Think about what Harry's legal team is dealing with right now. The entire foundation of their case is that Meghan and Harry are uniquely vulnerable, that their fame creates threats so serious that ordinary security simply isn't enough. And in one Sunday morning, Meghan blew a hole straight through that argument. I've been following this security case for a long time. I genuinely cannot think of a worse own goal. Not even close. Harry's lawyers must be absolutely pulling their hair out. Now this part of the story has barely been reported anywhere, and I think it deserves a moment. Thomas Markle has returned to the United States. He crossed an ocean in genuinely poor health to be closer to his daughter. He's here now, on the same continent, in the same country. Samantha Markle had been working quietly for weeks to bring her father home, worried sick about the journey given his health. But this past weekend she posted, "Dad is back safely. So happy. Great new chapter in life." Thomas Markle is in America. Same country as his daughter. And this weekend, Meghan got on a plane. Just not to see him. She flew to Chicago for a child she's apparently been godmother to, in secret, for years. A child we have never once heard her mention publicly. A friendship so close that Meghan is this boy's spiritual guardian. And yet his own mother posted a photo suggesting she barely knew Meghan was coming. I'll let you sit with that one. What's stopping her from seeing her dad? Nothing. And if we're being honest, it's always been nothing. That is the truth. Meghan doesn't want to see people she no longer finds useful, or people who won't go along with the narrative. Now I want to spend a moment on something generating real debate online, something that deserves far more scrutiny than mainstream media is giving it. For Meghan to serve as a Catholic godmother at Holy Name Cathedral, there are specific canonical requirements. And these are not optional suggestions. They are mandatory. You need a confirmation certificate proving you've received the Catholic sacraments. A signed godparent affidavit confirming you are a practicing Catholic in good standing. If you're married, proof of a valid Catholic marriage. And you need to attend a preparation class alongside the child's parents. Here's the problem. Meghan converted to Anglicanism in 2017 to marry Harry. Before that, depending on who she was talking to, she described herself as Episcopalian or Presbyterian. She attended a Catholic high school, but attendance doesn't make you a practicing Catholic. And her first marriage reportedly involved Jewish traditions and ceremonies. So I'll ask you directly, which Catholic parish in California is signing Meghan's godparent affidavit right now? Which priest is confirming she's an active, practicing Catholic in good standing? Either that documentation exists, and there's a religious history nobody has ever reported, or this whole godmother story is considerably more complicated than People magazine is letting on. To be genuinely fair, Catholic practice does vary. Some parishes allow non-Catholics to serve in a supporting role. There may be a perfectly legitimate explanation, but the question deserves to be asked. And I find it remarkable that nobody in mainstream media is asking it. 6 years ago, Harry and Meghan stood in front of the world and said they wanted out. They wanted privacy, a normal life, away from the cameras, the scrutiny, the circus. 6 years later, Meghan is briefing People magazine about which pew she sat in. Every trip is documented. Every outfit is shoppable within hours. Every charitable appearance finds its way onto an app next to a product line. Every quiet private moment turns out not to be quiet or private at all. This is not a couple seeking privacy. This is a couple desperately chasing relevance. And that gap gets wider every single week. And Harry, I keep coming back to Harry. People who've spent time around him recently describe someone who seems increasingly lost, uncomfortable, like a man who made a decision he can't undo, and is only now beginning to fully understand the cost of it. The royal family has moved on. King Charles is conducting state visits. William and Catherine are doing what working royals do. The institution keeps moving forward. And Harry is in a courtroom arguing about security arrangements, while his wife flies solo to Chicago and accidentally dismantles his entire case on a Sunday morning. There's something genuinely sad about that picture. Not the sadness Meghan would want you to feel. Not the narrative of a couple bravely forging their own path against impossible odds. Just the quiet, straightforward sadness of watching someone make choices that keep leading them further from where they actually want to be. The Chicago trip wasn't a triumph. It wasn't a disaster in the way the headlines suggest. It was just another week of a couple burning through credibility they can't afford to lose, chasing a version of fame that keeps moving just out of reach. Here's the extended script. Picking up right where it left off. What this couple has cost themselves. Let's talk about what Harry and Meghan actually had, because I think people forget. When Harry married Meghan in 2018, the goodwill was extraordinary. Genuinely extraordinary. The world was watching. Billions of people tuned in. Here was this beloved prince, this son of Diana, marrying a successful, confident, mixed-race American woman. It felt historic. It felt hopeful. The crowds outside Windsor Castle were enormous. The energy was electric. Even people who had never paid attention to the royal family in their lives were suddenly invested. That was the starting point. That was what they had in their hands. And piece by piece, decision by decision, interview by interview, they gave it away. The Oprah interview. The Netflix documentary. Spare. The endless drip of allegations, accusations, and grievances aired publicly against a family that, whatever its flaws, stayed silent. Every time the palace didn't respond, Harry and Meghan filled that silence with another headline. And every headline cost them a little more of that original goodwill. You can only cry wolf so many times before people stop looking up. And now Meghan is briefing a tabloid about her church seating arrangement and calling it a PR win. That is how far the pendulum has swung. That is the distance between where they started and where they are now. Here is something I want you to genuinely think about, because it gets to the heart of everything this couple does. Relevance is a strange and hungry thing. When you have it naturally, you don't have to chase it. It comes to you. But when you've burned through your natural supply, when the goodwill is gone and the public fascination has cooled, you have to manufacture it. And manufacturing relevance is an exhausting, expensive, and ultimately self-defeating business. Because manufactured relevance always looks like manufactured relevance. The Chicago trip looked coordinated because it was coordinated. The People magazine exclusive looked planted because it was planted. The casual, she just sat in the pews like everyone else, narrative looked constructed because it was constructed. And the audience, the real audience, not the Sussex echo chamber, but the broader public, can feel the difference between something authentic and something engineered. People are not stupid. And Harry and Meghan seem to fundamentally misunderstand that. The internet has a collective memory. It notices patterns. And the pattern here is crystal clear. Every spontaneous moment has a publicist behind it. Every private trip ends up in a magazine. Every quiet gesture comes with a source. At some point, and I think we're reaching that point now, the audience simply stops believing anything they do is genuine. And when that happens, when every action is viewed through a lens of suspicion, you haven't just lost your PR battle. You've lost something much harder to get back. You've lost the benefit of the doubt.